Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to decode exactly how to translate the Spanish concept of haber, meaning there exists, into English, completely skipping the usual confusion. For Spanish speakers, a single word covers everything, but in English, we split it up. And to make this incredibly fun and sticky today, we are going to use a special theme, a bustling, beautiful countryside farm. We'll be using farm tools, vibrant flowers, crops, and farm animals to really bring these grammar rules to life. Okay, let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the verb haber in English. Second, countables and uncountables. Third, the famous list trick. And finally, negations and questions. Let's get to it. Section 1, the verb haber in English. Let's look at the absolute fundamental difference between singular and plural when we want to express that something simply exists in the world. So how do we actually say hey in English? Well, you face an immediate choice. There isn't just a one-size-fits-all word. Your choice completely depends on what comes next in the sentence. Are you talking about one single thing or multiple things? Basically, we split that single Spanish word hi down two distinct paths. You use there is for a single item, like a spider in your room, and we use there are for multiple items, like 3 people waiting. Now, let's bring in our farm theme to make this stick. Imagine you're standing in a massive green pasture. If you see just one piece of farm equipment, you'd say there is a tractor. It's just one, so we use is. But what if you look over by the fence and see a whole group of animals? You'd say there are 5 horses. Because there's more than one horse, we absolutely must use are. Singular gets there is, and plural gets there are. Super simple, right? Moving on to section 2, countables and uncountables. Let's see exactly where these strict rules begin to bend just a little bit, depending on the noun. In English, we divide nouns into 2 buckets, countable and uncountable. Countables are just what they sound like, things you can easily count. On our farm, that means animals like pigs and cows, or vibrant flowers like tulips and sunflowers, or even your tools like shovels and pitchforks. You can easily say 1 shovel, 2 shovels. But then we have uncountables. Concepts like water, money, and information just cannot be counted individually. You don't say 1 water, 2 waters. Out on the farm, uncountables are usually our crops or raw materials. You can't count dirt or soil. You can't count wheat or corn when you're talking about a bulk crop. So the golden rule to remember here is this. What do we do with uncountables? Regardless of the massive quantity you might be picturing in your head, uncountable nouns will always take the singular there is. We say, there's some money on the table. Applying this to the farm, even if you are staring out at a giant 100-acre field of wheat, you still use the singular. You say, there is a lot of wheat in the field. Even if you've got a massive silo packed to the brim with grain, you say, there is some grain. Because we can't count it piece by piece, English grammar just treats it as a single unified blob of existence. Section 3. The list trick. This is a secret little grammar shortcut that native speakers use all the time, often without even realizing it. There is a book and a pen. Wait a minute. 1 book plus 1 pen equals 2 items, right? So why in the world do native speakers so often use the singular there is instead of there are? Think about it. If I'm standing in the barn and I see a shovel and a rake, those are 2 distinct farm tools. Why do I naturally say there is a shovel and a rake in the barn? The answer is a really beautiful concept called euphony. Euphony just means a pleasing or sweet sound. It's the acoustic effect produced by words combined in a way that pleases the ear. Conversational English often prioritizes what sounds sweet, smooth, and human over strict mathematical logic. Because the very first word right after the verb is singular, a shovel, it just sounds so much smoother to say there is a shovel, rather than the clunky there are a shovel. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between a grammar textbook and real life. As the famous grammar expert Betty Azar points out, sure, formal writing technically demands there are for a list because the total items are plural. But informal, everyday speech, it naturally defaults to there is when the first item in that list is singular. So if you're writing a formal university paper on agriculture, you write, there are a tractor and a plow in the field. But if you're just chatting with the farmer, you say, there is a tractor and a plow. It's also super interesting how contractions play into this. Keep in mind that there is easily and beautifully shrinks down into the cute contraction there's. There's a cow in the barn. However, a lot of experts advise completely avoiding the contraction there are, short for there are, because honestly, it's awkward. Trying to pronounce those back-to-back R sounds is clunky. Even though you might occasionally see it pop up in kids' books or casual texts, it's almost always better to just pronounce the full words. There are. Finally, Section 4, Negations and Questions. Let's empower you to put this into practice, specifically by figuring out exactly what is going on at our farm. Forming the negative is incredibly easy. You just add not or the contraction ent to your verb. You can also just use no for absolute zeros. This lets you say things like, there aren't any horses in the stable. Or if you're looking at a completely failed crop, you might sigh and say, there is no corn this year. It's a direct, simple formula that works every single time. Now for questions. To ask a basic yes or no question, you simply flip the word order around. You pop the verb right before the word there. So there is a problem becomes is there a problem? But I really want to focus on a very specific type of question. How many? When we want to know the exact number of countable nouns, like our farm tools, the animals, or those beautiful flowers, we use how many. Because we're expecting a plural number as an answer, how many is almost always followed by plural nouns, and the plural verb are there. Let's practice this with our farm vocabulary. If I want to know about the animals, I'd ask, how many pigs are there in the pen? Notice that structure. How many plus the plural noun pigs plus are there. What if we're planting flowers? I ask, how many sunflower seeds are there in the bag? What if I need my farm tools? I ask, how many pitchforks are there in the shed? It is a wonderfully consistent rule. Whenever you use how many to ask for a count, you follow it up with are there. I'm going to leave you with this tricky little test question from the English teacher Mr. P to chew on. How many dice are there in the box? Since the word dice doesn't end in an S, why exactly does it force us to use are there? Well, the trick is that dice is an irregular plural. The singular is die, and the plural is dice. We have this on our farm too. The plural of sheep is still just sheep. So if you're looking at a flock, you'd ask, how many sheep are there? It's a plural concept, so are there is required. Because dice is an irregular plural, it demands are there. But man, that really makes you wonder, how many other hidden irregular plurals are lurking around in everyday English, secretly dictating the rules of existence without you even realizing it? Next time you look out at a field or a crowd, ask yourself, what are you really counting? Thanks for tuning into This Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.